Hey everybody, this is Brad Bruce and I'm here with
Jace Marsiglia.
You're listening to the 5195 podcast.
And we are excited to announce we're here with Mr. James Duval. Really appreciate you coming in, buddy.
Thank you.
Yeah, man, it's an honor to meet you. I've been a fan for a long time. And I know you've been a coworker of Brad's a couple of times.
We've done
now.
a couple things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm the new kid on the block on this table.
Well, no, thanks for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Oh, it's awesome,
I'm
dude.
jazzed.
I actually have found out recently you're Michigander as well, right?
Yeah, originally.
Were you just born there or did you grow up in Michigan?
I was just born there and then I moved to Los Angeles, but my father's from there. I still have family there.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Okay. Because, I seen that.
Michigan.
And was like, I'm a Michigan guy. So I was like, hey, we got something in common. All right.
Yeah.
I
mean, we're all from Detroit originally. My aunt and my father and cousins. And then they moved up.
Everyone left, but
Yeah, then they moved up to Harrison and we moved to Tucson and then Los Angeles.
really? Okay.
And now, I mean, a lot of them, like my cousins left except for my cousin Alan, who's still there, and he lives in Grand Haven.
Okay.
Right outside of Grand Haven.
Yep.
I should say.
All right.
So West Michigan now, but
No, I'm on the southeast side by Detroit and all that. And yeah, I just thought that was cool. I thought that was a good opener because I was like, yeah, we got something in common there.
yeah, I've shot a couple movies out there actually.
Did you really?
Yeah.
No kidding. Which ones?
Naked Angel was one
Okay.
of them. Played this kind of stuttering suicidal kid who's on the cusp of killing himself. This angel kind of
Really?
appears to him.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
What was it about acting that drew you to it?
When I first started acting, I had come out here and I wanted to be an actor. And
Okay.
I went to acting class, I think, for like 3 or 4 months. I audited this school and kind of learned about I'd done theater before when I was younger. So
Oh, wow.
And yeah, in junior high I did a lead in a play, so it was very cool to you could say I got bitten by the bug at that
Yeah.
point. But when I got into high school, everybody was kind of just, you don't get to act your first year as a freshman, and all the actors and everyone in the drama class seemed to be a bit snobby, and that really turned me off to
Sure.
it. So
Right.
I didn't think about it till I was a junior in high school, and this girl Marissa, and I'll never forget, she's like, "Oh, I'm doing this extra work, and all you need is a work permit, and you can come do extra work on movies and television too."
Yeah.
So I asked my dad, and he got me a work permit. He actually took off work to get me a work permit so I could do
that's
extra
cool.
work.
Yeah.
And I started doing extra work, and I only did about 3 extra jobs, and then I moved to Hollywood, and staying with a friend. And while looking for a job, I met this filmmaker named Gregg Araki in a cafe, and I ended up making 3 movies with him. Or made
Really?
3 movies with him in the 90s. Yeah.
So you guys found each other.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I auditioned for his movie, and then I guess I got the part.
Okay.
At the first audition. So
Yeah.
But he clearly dug you enough. You guys you kept pairing up.
yeah, and through those films, which played at Sundance in 93, and then 94, and then 94, 95, and 97.
Really?
Yeah,
Okay.
the first one we did in 91, but it came out in 93 and premiered, I believe, at Toronto Film Festival in 93, and then New York, and then Sundance in 94. And then while that premiered, we were filming a little movie with Rose McGowan and Jonathan Schaech called The Doom Generation.
Yep.
And then from there, we ended up making Nowhere, I think in 95. So a
Okay.
year after
Which
that.
is a great movie.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
It took a little while. Yeah, it took a little while for us to get it ready for Sundance in 97. But
Yeah.
there was a kind of little roll there. We were just kind of back to back to back.
Yeah,
with
you
these
were-
movies.
Yeah.
Belting
sounds
them
like,
out.
Sounds like you caught a wave,
Yeah, and I mean, I think we were talking about it a little bit earlier, but those films are now officially being released by the Criterion Collection.
They are.
In the fall. This year's going to be a box set.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah, so we're actually in the midst of working on that, all the extras, and see what kind of special goodies we can bring to everyone that Criterion
Right.
is so well known for.
Oh, absolutely.
Right. That's
Yeah.
amazing. Do you have a process when you get a role? Is there something that you do?
Well, it depends. The process will depend on the project and the time I have to do the project and exposure I have to the material. So if I have a lot of time with the material, then I will spend a lot of time with the character.
Sure.
But sometimes I get, we'll get this call. Can you be on set tomorrow? Can you read this? And I've done it. I flew to Morocco to do a movie like that. And just
Holy
read
cow.
read the script on
Which
it.
is no back
Well, I knew it was a little like a Hercules movie, and I knew they were making like it was Asylum's Hercules movie.
Yeah.
But I knew my friend that I had done another movie with a Steadicam operator. We'd done a movie in Panama together.
Yeah.
We spoke about how much we loved making a movie out of the country and what a great time we had.
Mm-hmm.
You know, all the benefits of, you know, filming it, you know, internationally.
Sure.
And I guess him and the AD were like hanging out one night, and they just called me up and just said, "Hey, what are you doing for the next 2 weeks?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm kind of just around.
Yeah.
Can you horseback and sword fight?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I could do that." And they're like, "Do you want to come to Morocco and do some horseback riding and some sword fighting?" And I'm like, "Let me think about that." Yeah.
Yeah.
And they go, "All right, there's going to be 2 characters. Look at these 2 characters, and then let us know what you want to do when you get off the plane." So they booked me a flight that day, and then the next morning I got on a plane and I flew from LA to Paris. Finished the script by then. Decided I want to play the best friend and not the bad guy. The bad guy I almost wanted to play, but wanted to play the best friend, and just felt that I could do more with that.
So they offered you something else first, and you kind of like
They offered me 2 roles, and I picked one.
Okay.
And the actor who ended up playing the bad guy was incredible anyway.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So it worked out.
Yeah, so that all worked out.
And so you use that time on the plane to kind of prepare and get.
Yeah. So looked at it like, well, the reason why I chose it is I read the script. I'm like, okay, cool. Yeah, I could do this. Okay, these characters. Yeah, this one I already know I'm going to do this, and this. I already know what I'm going to do with it.
Right.
So I already had a good fingerhold on what I wanted to do and how to do it.
Yeah.
So at that point, it was just about executing it because it was a crazy trip. So from Paris, then I flew to Casablanca, and from Casablanca, I flew to Marrakesh. But because I had taken such a late flight, we were shooting in a little town called Ouarzazate, which is the gateway of the Sahara, where they film Game of Thrones. The sets for Kingdom of Heaven are there.
Yeah.
Lawrence of Arabia was filmed there.
Yeah.
So they have an actual studio there.
Yeah.
Right.
But there was no planes that went out there, so I had to, after the, LA to Paris, Paris to Casablanca, Casablanca to Marrakesh. Marrakesh, I had to get picked up by a driver who then drove me 7 or 8 hours over the Atlas mountain chain, which used to have lions.
No way.
In northern Africa. Yeah.
Wow.
Drove me all the way into Ouarzazate. I think I got in 3 a.m, and I was so hungry that the hotel manager brought me like a couple pieces of chicken, a couple pieces of bread, and like a plate of olives. And I inhaled that. And I had a call time of 5 a.m.
Oh, man.
So you went right into
And I
it.
just went right into it.
Oh, my
No
God.
sleep at all.
Yeah.
I got a nap, and I showed up and did the wardrobe fitting and met everybody, but then I think I didn't have to film. I think I just filmed one quick scene.
Yeah.
And then I was done for that day. And then I could go take a nap and caught up with everyone that night for dinner. And then I was adjusted already within a few days. And I got to be honest, I had a blast.
No,
Sure.
for sure. Yeah. I mean, definitely. I mean, that travel sounds a little rough.
Yeah,
I
getting
mean, I
there.
almost don't feel bad now about Desolate.
But that, I mean, to be honest, as an actor, that was one of the exciting things was to go on adventures.
Right.
Like this.
Sure.
It's like, are you ready for something like this? How badly do you want to do something like this?
Yeah.
Well, on so many different levels, I'm like, well, I get to sword fight, which I've always known how to do since I was a kid when I learned to fence.
Yeah.
No kidding.
And that's fencing is great for stage combat. And and I also did quite a bit of martial arts when I was very young as well. So even though I hid that in the 90s, I didn't want people to know. When I got older, it really helped with stunt experience. I just for some reason there was like this. For me, it was a stigma in the 80s and 90s. If you knew martial arts, you were like a martial arts actor.
And that was it. You were going to get typecast.
But I didn't want to be
pigeonhole you
seen
pretty
as
quick.
that.
Right.
Yeah. And actors who I saw were breaking out of that, like weren't around for very long, like Brandon Lee, and who showed that he was so much more than that with The Crow.
For sure.
Which it's legendary still to this day.
Yeah.
So I knew it was possible. I kind of, like I said, I just kind of steered away from it. I started to embrace everything, which is what I do now. I mean, instead of being this type of actor who did these types of films, which I was very opinionated when I was in my 20s.
Yeah.
Now that I've been doing it, for 30 plus years. No, it's great because I've gotten to do comedies, dramas,
Right.
romances, sci-fi horror, sci-fi thriller, psychological thriller.
Yeah.
I played the kidnapper, the rapist. I played,
Right.
I've done everything under the sun almost, pretty much. That stuttering suicidal kid and Naked Angel that I shot in Ann Arbor.
Yeah.
So I've had the opportunity over the years to do so much,
Yeah.
I got to work with Kurt Russell in Coopersville and in Grand Rapids in this movie Touchback, and Melanie Linsky, and
Oh, wow.
incredible cast, incredible. It was a big cast, but those were my favorites. So, you know, over the years, you learn to take these experiences in as an actor. Of course, it's not who I am or necessarily
Right.
what do I care what people think of me, to be quite honest. I really don't.
Right.
Right.
And the whole point, you know, which I've always, you know, I am going to just put it out there, and I am on social media, and I do it, but I don't post that often. You know, I'll be honest, I wish I did post more, and I'd like to post more. But at the same time, I think, you know, when you're doing things like acting or performing, it's better that people don't know who I am, what I'm eating, what I'm wearing, where I'm coming, because I'm playing all these different sorts of characters.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's kind of like, well, I'm a magician. This is where I train. This is how I do my magic. Let me show you
you're
A
letting
through B,
them in.
how I do. Yeah, you know, and it's okay for people you're collaborating with or working with, but you know,
Yeah.
for me, there's like a boundary to that, and I'm not necessarily opposed to sharing things.
Right.
But I think that I'm, you know, being raised in the '90s, making little independent movies, it was all about the movie and the characters and disappearing behind them. And it wasn't about being this great personality, which, again, don't get me wrong, there's so many fantastic actors out there who are great personalities and they play themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they're damn good at it. And I've worked with some of them who were like, wow, I got to say, even as an actor and someone who strives to act, I would have a hard time achieving some of that stuff. Like, there's a reason why they're talented and they're movie stars, because they can do these things in a special way it's truly magical.
Yeah. Sure.
You know, otherworldly.
Yeah.
You know, but, you know, in the end of the day, I think, you know, I kind of strived for being able to disappear behind the romantic, you know, musician or the comedic goof or you know, the half Tibetan street hustler. And the people I've got to work with over the years, I remember right after Independence Day, I had opportunities to do quite a few films. And I picked a film with Richard Chamberlain and Michael Imperioli called River Made to Drown In that James Marandino directed, which is how I got involved with his next movie, you know, coincidentally, SLC Punk.
Yeah.
So it was like pursuing, you know, at least at the time for me, what I thought were interesting filmmakers who were making films off the grid, that were doing things kind of differently, that were unique voices. And certainly that still exists, but we are a much more media obsessed, you know.
Extremely. And I think that's a really good point. Like, that's a really good way of, I've never thought about it like that, you know, with not wanting to put so much out there, you know, when you have all these characters that you're doing, you know, it's like that peek behind the curtain.
It does keep you sort of mythical in a way, you know what I
Right.
mean? So when you come out the gate, no one's going to know what they're going to get from you this time.
And that's it. And that's important, you know, and I think expectations can kill things, you know.
Sure.
Yeah.
You're not, of course, all these things are, you know, extra, you know, curricular exterior on the exterior. So you don't have control of these things. And I don't think we should try to control them. But what we do have control of is what we put personally out there.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And I'm also taken back by the boldness of people who can put themselves out there like that. And, you know, they share things that I certainly wouldn't feel comfortable sharing
Same.
with
It's
the outside
wild.
world. Like,
Yeah.
that's kind of like those emotions and those kinds of thoughts are like, that's not for you, because I'm still in the midst of processing these
Yeah.
things.
Sure,
Yeah.
yeah. And
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of knee-jerk posting.
I mean, it's amazing how
On social media
how
or
free a lot of these people are with their personal lives.
I can't even wrap
It's almost
my head
every
around it.
aspect of it is lived on social media.
You know, and because you're not, and I don't want to sound, you know, a little bit off the cuff here either, but one of the things I love about acting is, you know, you can control those things by creating a scenario where you choose how you're going to say things off the cuff, or choose how you're going to react, or choose how that scene's going to be. And hopefully it affects people that they think about that.
Yes.
You know, and so that's the great fun thing about acting. Otherwise, you just, you know, you're always wishing that you were that sharp, or you could say that one liner and come back and do those things. And that's what makes movies and television and, you know, music and poetry, all these things kind of amazing and inspiring, because they inspired us to take control of the moment.
Yes.
You know, so, you know, I'm not necessarily trying to bash anything, you know, because I think in a sense too, I'm certainly always been anti-boomer, and I don't want to become one of those things. Because boomer is not necessarily a generation anymore, but I stand
I think
behind
it's a way of mind.
It's a state of mind.
It is
it's
a
like
state
an
of mind,
archaic, you know, 20th century way of thinking.
And they relish in it, and they live there.
Yeah, and it's like, you know, people, man, we've left that behind a couple generations ago.
Yeah, and they're almost doting on this.
And that's where it's like, you know, I can stand behind, okay, boomer.
Yeah.
You know, and even though that's that's dated now, but like, you know, it's when that came out, I was like, finally.
Yeah.
You know? And then you realize you're not the only person standing on that side. You know, you're just like, you got to move with progress or get left behind. And,
Yeah.
you know, I'm certainly not a political person, I stay out of it. But we're this country's in the midst of something crazy like that right now.
Of course,
which is why it's so important for us to keep making movies and television and music, telling our stories.
Yeah, exactly.
That's something Brad and I always talk about. We're just like, man, we're here to take you away from that for a little while.
To challenge everything that we were talking about in the midst now. And it is so fascinating. It is embedded to everything we do. And, I know I did this series with Gregg Araki that came out on Stars a few years ago called Now Apocalypse. Mm-hmm. And there was a bunch of the texting and, back and forth.
Sure.
And you could see it on
the screen. Yeah.
But, he had, he always has a unique way of doing things. So you'd see him typing and then write something out and then erase it and then rewrite it.
Yeah. Here we go.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
We're sending it on accident and then response question mark. You're like, oops, I shouldn't have sent that.
Yeah.
So there's a great reality to capture there, certainly.
Right. Sure. Yeah. Right. I mean, movies got to grow with culture and all that, but at the same time.
Well, yeah. Have you noticed a change? Like from when you first started to now?
Well, yeah. I think a lot of the filmmakers, at least that I know that I've been working with, are trying to steer away from stories where you have modern technology, where you have to be putting text message on the screen or that kind of communication.
Well, because it's really dating it too. It's really stamping.
And one, it really dates it, and two, I think it become, for some people, it's just you're not escaping everyday life when you're thrust into that.
Sure.
50 feet high.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. You're being reminded again.
Yeah.
Of the outside world.
It's like kind of reverting back to a different way of telling stories, or an older way of telling stories, or a different way of telling stories. Just like the way we tell stories now, which don't get me wrong, I love all the movies and television shows that are coming out. I think it's some of the best stuff we've ever made.
Yeah.
Sure.
I'm ingesting that content just like everybody else and loving it.
What are you into right now?
Well, this kind of came out later last year, but I've been obsessed with it because I saw it twice on the plane, and then I finally went to go see a screening of it with Gareth Edwards. But when I went to go see The Creator, for instance, that movie blew me away.
Yeah.
And so when we talk about sort of modern day technology and we talk about AI, it's interesting because that movie's pro AI.
Right.
Really? Yeah.
I don't know if you've seen it.
No, I have not.
Oh man, it's incredible. It's one of my favorite movies in a long time.
Really?
Definitely have to check it out.
Yeah, and you got to watch it. I watched it on 70 millimeter IMAX.
Really?
And Gareth Edwards spoke afterwards, and I'm not just saying this because he's super cool, and I would love to work with him.
Sure, yeah.
But I love his movies, and I love his perspective, and I love his approach. And
so it was pro AI.
The movie's kind of pro AI.
So how do you feel about that?
I could get behind his movies and that story, and that's what I think. That's the thing about stories, because I've never been pro AI. I am anti AI about a lot of things.
Scary in a lot of respects.
But there's nothing you're going to be able to do about that. I can certainly say that. This is this generation's printing press.
It is.
And whether people like it or not, it's happening, and it's going to and it's going to continue. Well, you'll be able to duplicate certain things. I don't ever think, like some of the top scientists said, I don't think it's going to get to, not even in 10 years. But there's certain leaps and bounds it's going to get to beyond what we can think also in the next 10 years.
Right.
And we'll not be able to duplicate certain human things, I think, in the same way.
So it'll plateau? It'll have a plateau?
I don't think it'll plateau, but I think some of those things are just a lot further along. The ceiling's much higher than we realize for some of these things. But certainly we're already seeing, it take place in imagery, and you believe, again, here's what how politics uses it to generate fake sayings and fake videos and fake support.
What's it called? Wagging the dog.
Wagging the dog. And it's here in reality. And so that is a scary part of it. But that's just, in the end, it's a tool. So if we think about before the printing press, most people didn't read. And they never learned to read because you were never going to be able to afford a book.
Right.
Because that was way too freaking expensive because nobody freaking read.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But all of a sudden you got the printing press, and so people could read. Now that people could read, you could create newspapers. Now you could, everybody could share ideas. So then all of that changed the world. So now people learn to read, and they learn to exchange information on a scale that we had never been to before. You could hear something from the telegraph, and it might 3 months later get to your town.
Oh, for sure.
Maybe not for a couple of years.
Right.
And now all of a sudden people were getting this stuff instantaneously. And as we say this now, it's like we're getting this again with video and imagery. And I think about when I first got on the internet, and it would dial.
You got mail.
And 4 minutes later, you're connected. And then it would take, I'm going to download this 3 megabyte song. It'll be ready in 30 hours.
Yeah.
And you're like, man. And then DSL came, and you're like,
then somebody
yeah.
picks up the phone and ruins it all.
yeah. And then all of a sudden they had the splitters and
Yeah.
next year,
Yeah.
and then that was gone. Wow, you can
Yeah.
actually look. I'm talking to you, and I'm on the internet. This is
know.
great. I felt like Spicoli. It was just
Exactly.
unbelievable. Like,
This
I
is
can't
the
believe I'm
greatest thing
celebrating
ever.
something so simple, but why is this something so obvious? Takes so long for us to freaking figure out how to do.
100%.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And now that I say that, I'm sounding like a boomer and archaic and dated. You know what I mean? But, you think about that kind of progress to where we're at now and that exchange of information, and that is freaking amazing. It's
It is.
incredible. And in a lot of ways, if you were to say this 20 years ago, you could literally say that this is magic. Oh, in
yeah.
20 years, you're going to
Right.
do magic.
Right.
You can exchange information, ideas. You can even have people say things they never said, and they'll look at it, and people will believe it.
Yep. Yep.
Absolutely. I mean, I remember, you go back and you watch movies from like the 70s, and the computer is the room.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
It's the
massive.
entire room.
Yeah.
You go back in time and say, all of this right here now.
Oh,
You know.
we're holding
just-
up a phone as we talk about
Just-
this.
We walk around with our computers
It's
now.
like
and
I remember in the late 70s. I'm going to date myself again. Okay, I was born in 1972, but it was in the late 70s. Of 79, I was about 6.5, almost 7, and my dad brought home this thing called the Commodore PET, and it was this huge computer monitor with this huge bass on the bottom, and it had a little cassette player.
Oh, wow.
And that was the programs. It's like 78, 79. You could look it up sometime. The Commodore PET.
Pet.
And
I've heard of
put in a
Commodore,
video
but-
game, and I used to play a little video game on there. I can't remember the video game now, but I can tell you that it used to be like Commodore PET. Welcome, 864 kilobytes, 864K bytes free. K.
Yes.
Okay, I can send a text message in gigs now.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Get out of here with that.
Wow.
Okay, maybe not gigs, but definitely megabytes.
Oh, no.
what's-
I mean,
but what's
And that's
funny
crazy. Emails and gigs.
definitely.
What's funny though is at that time you would pop in something like Pitfall or Dig Dug, and we didn't question it. We were
yeah.
like, "This is
That was
this
magic.
is amazing."
It was
you know?
magic. Yeah.
I could
no,
sit in front
totally.
of this for hours.
Yeah. I mean, I saw something the other day. I think it was on Instagram. There's this AI thing where you can just fill in points and then just hit enter, and then you have a script.
Oh god.
With log line.
This is also, so there's going to be advantages. Of course, I'm not going to say that's not advantage, but I'm also going to say there's dangers to this.
that seems dangerous to me.
Well, it's dangerous in the sense that people are going to, it's the same thing. People are going to learn how to use skills. So it's
Yeah.
kind of, unfortunately now where a lot of things are becoming automated, these actual crafts that people would spend their lives to become craftsmen, become, an apprenticeship to a journeymanship, to becoming a true craftsman and a master of the craft, that's disappearing.
Right.
Carving.
Yeah. No.
All this has
arts,
become automated.
They're gone. Yeah.
So you're talking about a new society where what this is going to bring, just like the printing press, is a
Right.
big unemployment line.
Yeah.
I've got
Yes.
a lot of people who need to be retrained or be put on basic income because there'll be no jobs for them.
Right.
Because they'll all be done by computers, including writing,
Yep.
Yes.
and making music,
And it's hitting
shooting
us
your
right where we
movies,
live. Yeah.
acting.
Yeah.
And so is that in the future? Certainly is. I don't know how far off or to what extent. Some of that's already here, obviously.
Oh yeah.
of
No.
course,
It's definitely coming.
but it's crazy. So I mean, I'm not. There's things where it's all going to depend on how we utilize these things, how we as
Well, we
as
have to
people use
adapt
them.
to it.
Well, creating it. Well, and how it's like a tool, like how you use that. Are you going to use nuclear? Knowledge to create a bomb, or are you going to use it to make energy? Because you can do
Right.
both.
Right.
And it's like, how are you using that?
Right.
And so then it's becomes you have this powerful tool, powerful enough to destroy oneself, certainly in the society in which one
course.
lives.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say that it's not, because it
course.
is just like a nuclear bomb.
Yeah.
But nuclear bomb made from fission and leftover materials from that,
Yeah.
you don't need to make a bomb with that. It's what you do with the leftover waste, what you do with these tools that you're
Right.
utilizing
Right.
to
Can you
get
make-
the things that you,
Can you let it move us forward?
can it push us forward, or is it going to destroy us? And
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
kind of always been that's always been, I guess, the ultimate question for mankind, hasn't
Right.
it? Over humankind, excuse me, over and over again. Sorry, boomer.
I think we found the title of the show.
But it's just like, how do these things move us forward? And that's
Yeah.
always those were always the things, and those are still the things that I think about when I'm making movies. I don't always get to be a part of movies that are, I think, groundbreaking or push the boundaries, but I'm still open to them, and I still enjoy making them, and I love being a little transgressive about things, and I've always have. I always have.
Yeah.
And seeing where that takes us, and how that can challenge our mindset. It's interesting to be in a society where you got to be careful what you say, or you'll be canceled, and some people rightly so. But I say, some people rightly so, but then certain things, it's like if you can't have a dialogue about stuff. Then it's like it just becomes so extreme, like, and I don't want to open up a can of worms here, but like it happened with Jon Stewart, who I love, the other day, and he said something, and then everybody on the extreme left was like, "You shouldn't be saying anything," and it's like, and it's like, well, why not? I mean, why shouldn't we be questioning everything that's put in front of us?
Yeah,
yes, we shouldn't be accepting it wholeheartedly. I mean, I'm going to stand behind him when he says, "I'm sorry for saying things that my eyeballs saw."
Right.
I mean, that's like, okay, let's talk about that.
I mean, he's not making it up. It's something that he witnessed.
Let's talk about that. Let's be more open to that. So, certainly we are in a divisive place right now. And so again, I'll say that's where the importance of because I don't lie on either side of these things, and I see what's happening. But, since I started making movies as a kid, stumbling into meeting Gregg Araki and making these films that, I think were an important statement for the time. And they've come full circle to being an important statement again, certainly is what lies the power in storytelling. Yeah. And why it's so important to be able to tell these stories and to make these movies, and also understand that not everyone's going to get them. Not everyone, they'll find their place in time.
But on the other side of that, you never know what you're going to do that's going to touch someone.
There's certainly that.
You can make this movie and be like, this was great. It was a paycheck, whatever. Someone out there watched it and it changed their life.
And that's certainly the hope.
Yes. And I think that happens more often than not. You just don't hear about it.
Well, no, I mean, I could say with confidence for most of every single film fan out here, but that's why, and filmmakers, but that's why we're film fans and filmmakers, is because that's what those stories do for us.
There's the feeling and the change and being able to connect with these things.
And we transcend everyday society in the confines of what we should be or have to be, or, and we start to go into the realm and the possibility of what can be.
Of course. And it's an escape, and it's escape from reality, which is good, because sometimes a lot of people need that. And I think that's where
we all need that.
We definitely do.
Just like daydreaming is important. If you can't imagine things, if you can't leave things behind sometimes and imagine a better place and a better way to get there, then you're never going to find that path.
Right.
And you find that path by, thinking about the things that are important, that are ideal. And then thinking about how you could achieve those or attain those and how to get there.
Yeah.
And that's what I think a lot of filmmaking and music, again, and all the things we do that are creative and expressive, that's exactly what that's about. You realize you have this thing inside you, and you want to realize it in some way, shape, or fashion.
Yeah.
You sing about it, or you write about it, or you act about it.
You just got to get it out.
And that's the whole thing, is that, like, getting that out, that that expression in the midst of all these crazy things that we've been talking about. Because there's always been crazy things happening.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
This is just the crazy things that are happening in our day.
This is our day. Exactly.
Life in the so-called space age.
Yeah. No, I mean, Brad and I, we talk all the time. We have these deep talks, and we joke a lot, but it's like we can actually discuss something, and it's not like I have conversations with him I can't have back home. Stuff like that, because certain people just don't want to talk. It's just an argument. It's just a disagreement. If more people just talked, you find someone like-minded, or even opposed views. If you could just talk about it, maybe that's how you move forward. That's how progress is made.
That's the hope. That's the hope. And so certainly I know what we feel then as we do now is that if we can't speak about it directly, then maybe we can speak about it in a different way that they're listening.
And that's where the
and being able to get this outlet, the creative outlet.
Exactly. You use your creativity to put a message out there, and you and I both were big fans of like Carpenter and Romero.
For me, that's the horror I grew up with.
Exactly. Us too. And it's like you as you grow up, you realize these aren't just scary movies. Some of these have a message.
Well, yeah, there's social commentaries at the time.
Almost, and you realize almost all of them are social commentaries.
Pretty much.
They are.
They flew right over your head as a kid, but as an adult, you're like,
when you read it, you can. Yeah, of course.
Look at Toxic Avenger, how far that's come, and what that's become, and we'll look at our society
extremely
now where
prevalent.
It's like, there's plastic in your microplastics in your blood, and it's in your cells, and it's at the bottom of the Marianas Trench, and it's in Antarctica, and it's in the freaking Arctic, and it's in the Alps, and it's in the Sahara, and like you can't get away from that.
No. No,
No.
and it's Lloyd Kaufman was right.
The Toxic Avenger.
Yeah, how crazy is that to think that
That's funny though. I mean,
a schlock sticky fun movie is like, wow, it's actually kind of
Social commentary on that is
commentary.
huge.
Massive.
It was
It's
then
massive.
and it is again now.
Yeah.
and
It
I think one of the most relevant movies
Thank
right
you,
now.
Lloyd Kaufman.
Exactly, Lloyd.
Yes.
Lloyd had our backs, man.
Yep.
He was the harbinger.
Yeah.
But you look at a movie like They Live.
There's another one of my favorite all-time films.
Yes, and it's so
Timeless.
relevant
It is
right
timeless,
now.
but it's scary. It's scary.
It's terrifying now.
I have come
It's even more
here to
relevant.
chew bubble gum and kick ass,
And
and I'm all out of bubble gum.
All out of bubblegum.
yeah, it's scary to watch that movie to just see how parallel it is to right now.
It's become that.
It
It's
is.
literally
It has become that.
It's
It has
become
become
that, but it also means that it was that when they were shooting it, which is also a little depressing because you're like, oh, well, that was 30-something years ago.
It's consumerism in society.
and nothing's
Full
changed.
circle. It's
either
good.
nothing's changed or it's just gotten worse.
I think the phones has made things way worse because I'm sure shit's always been bad. Sure, but now it's just in your face every single second.
That's the thing about the phone. The phone is another tool,
Right.
So it can be used for these amazing things. But for me, I also believe that we went from the information age to the disinformation age.
Yes.
because it becomes hard for people to sort out what's real, what's true, what's not, what they feel, and you can't argue with someone's feeling, even if it's not
No.
in touch with reality.
Sure,
mine
yeah.
included.
Because you're not going to budge their needle at all.
Not
you
at
know?
all. Not
So
at all.
yeah,
And
we're just living in a very I guess this would be cliche because this is what everyone says. We're living in that's what these times are.
Yeah.
these are living
Yeah.
these times, but these are still incredible times, and there's incredible things happening, and it's just trying to be aware of what's happening. And since we were talking about connecting, and it's all about connecting, and so connecting is about learning to communicate. And sometimes we've reached a point, I think, where a lot of us agree where there's been a breakdown in communication, direct communication anyways. So then the hope again is, to try to communicate in a more artistic fashion and be able to influence or get through to people in that sense where it's like, look, this isn't brainwashing you. You don't have to watch this. You don't even have to like it. But if you're open to this, this is
It's a new idea.
yeah,
You know,
and this
Yeah,
is
of
what
course.
this is what it's like. This is what it feels like for other people. And sometimes it's like, well, no, let's just go have a great time too. We can make something that'll blow your mind. You have a great time. You can
Yes.
forget about everything.
Yeah.
and go home, and then kind of like deal with your problems in a lot less stressful manner.
yeah.
Well, at the end of the day, we're just trying to get each other through.
Of
You know what
course.
I mean? It's
Of course.
whether you're having a good chat with a buddy online or something, or watching a movie that was made to get you through.
Right.
We're all just trying to get to the next day and the next day and the next day until we're free of whatever it is that's bothering us.
Yeah. No.
Yeah, all those things. I know those classic themes. Zombies for one, which is similar to like the aliens, the alien beings, and They Live. That it's just like this is what society's become, what society creates, and what people become. Like these walking zombies, and you're all zombies. You're all sheep.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Me too. Me too.
Yeah.
Me too. Don't go crazy.
Almost to a degree.
Yeah. No. Exactly.
We're all sent to the slaughter. Welcome to the horror show, boys and girls.
No, that's wild.
And foes, family and lovers. Welcome to the show.
Oh, man.
The horror show we call life.
Yep.
Or as I like to say, my beautiful, lovely, distressed gentlefolk.
A gentlefolk.
Yeah.
Yes, I prefer it that way for all my friends who are boys and girls, binary and non-binary. My distressed, lovely gentlefolk.
The gentlefolk of,
Yes.
of our time.
Yeah.
Which
no.
we all agree we are all part of that.
I definitely agree with that. We are definitely all a part of that.
And it's not just a great album by the Jazz Butcher Conspiracy.
Well, I noticed you've brought up music quite a bit. It's strong, right, for you?
Yeah, I mean, well, I guess because, I was on the tour with Gregg Araki in the last year for Doom Generation and Nowhere.
Yeah.
For the 4K restorations with deleted scenes reinserted back in.
Sweet.
So we were talking about the process, because I started making movies with him when I was 18.
Right.
I became an actor. I was fresh out of high school.
Yeah.
So my big influences at the time, and they still are, and his big influences at the time were music. So it's interesting that for huge film guys who make movies and love movies, that our number one inspiration to make movies and for me to make characters comes from movies, but more it comes from music.
The music.
And
Really?
then movies
Okay.
underneath that. So first it's music like the soundtrack, and then movies that would kind of fulfill those soundtrack
Yeah.
desire or explanation or core foundation for these characters. I know that you know, I love, like for Donnie Darko, for instance, I love that soundtrack. And what's incredible to me is how Richard Kelly got that music so right for that era, because that's exactly the music. I went to go see Tears for Fears in '89, the
Yeah.
year after Donnie Darko. I was
No,
listening to The Church. I was listening
Right.
to Echo and the Bunnymen. I was listening to that stuff in the mid '80s.
Absolutely.
And
That's-
so all that music was so timely and right on. And I know for me, I didn't know what music he was making at the time, but I knew I was making a soundtrack for Frank, for
Yeah.
my character.
Sure.
And one of the songs that I said was Frank, and it's funny because I used to say this to Richard too. It's not at all in the movie or any of the temp tracks, but was in 1989, the Pixies. So I guess it kind of came out like right after, the year after. So that's why it wouldn't work. But for me, I said my character was Mr. Greaves by the Pixies from Doolittle.
No kidding.
Yeah, and that actually it is 88, 89, that
Yeah,
song.
yeah.
So it was like, you know, not to be kind of dark here, but in one of the lyrics he says, "You can cry, you can mope, but can you swing from a good rope?"
Yeah.
And he's talking about
Yeah.
Mr.
Oh,
Greaves. He's talking, you know.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
I was
it's
like,
a
that's
great song.
Frank is
Wow,
like,
that's-
Frank is Mr. Greaves. And then I kind of like, you know, delved deeper into it. So that was just one of the music songs that was inspiring for me to play the character.
Sure.
Yeah.
But then I kind of came to the realization after, you know, 4 or 5 reads pretty early on that Frank was just his sister's boyfriend. And that's how he knows me. And
Yeah.
the audience never saw that, because the one scene that was written that you see that in the end when they're wheeling him out, I have my arm around Maggie,
Yep.
and we ended up not shooting me there.
Really? Okay.
This is, well, this is the thing. These are all the places. So you can see it in the beginning without seeing it. So it's
Okay.
better if you don't see it. So in the beginning of Donnie Darko, the red Trans Am drops her off. Who's driving the red Trans Am? Frank.
Yes.
But you don't see Frank, but you see his car.
Yeah.
Then when the jet engine falls and Maggie comes in through the front door, and it falls through the house, and she backs up against the door as it falls.
Yeah.
Right before it falls, you hear a honking. Who's honking?
No kidding.
Which suggests
Yeah.
who's watching that jet engine fall as it falls from the
Right.
sky? Frank.
Oh.
Yeah.
So there's all these sorts of things, whether you see that in there or not, you choose to believe it, that I kind of put together to when I was creating this character.
Sure.
Yeah.
About what he was seeing and what he was experiencing, what the backstory was. And so what I came to figure out was I was his guardian angel or guardian bunny. And
Yeah.
you know,
Right.
the bunny was just my Halloween costume.
Yeah.
I'm his
Right.
sister's
Right.
boyfriend who's his guardian angel.
Yeah.
I'm just his kind of dark guardian angel.
Yeah.
So then coming to that realization, you know, the music, what was I listening to in high school? And I didn't know what Richard's soundtracks for, but one of them was Mr. So I would constantly listen to the Pixies' Doolittle, you know, Debaser.
Yeah.
And Monkey Gone to Heaven and Gouge Away and all these things. That's just a perfect album anyway. But from that era, that kind of helped me kind of get in the mindset for this character.
Sure. Yeah.
As well as, of course, this band I mentioned earlier that's obscure called the Jazz Butcher, and you know, kind of put these mixed tapes together. I guess it would be mixed playlists now.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Of,
Yeah.
like, what my
But it would-
character's mindset would be listening
It puts
to.
you in your mindset. Yeah. It puts you there. No, that's great.
And so Gregg, the same when he's writing his scripts, he just puts on headphones and he starts writing, and the movie comes out of him.
Yeah.
Yeah, we do that a lot.
Yeah.
So, and that's, of course, we're inspired by all these different types of movies. I know he was heavily, when I met him, inspired by Godard and French New Wave films.
Sure.
And Jim Jarmusch. So those were like his big, huge influences.
Okay,
And then
okay.
50s screwball comedies,
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
believe it or not. Yeah.
Really?
That's funny.
So in understanding, you have these, then you can kind of go off from those inspirations, and then you have this music which creates a soundtrack. And so we had a similar approach, I guess, to how we made movies.
It sounds like we all do.
Yeah.
Click then, and click now when we're making movies.
Right.
So it's interesting because we were talking about characters earlier and talking about building characters and how I approach it. So not only is it, you know, the difference between having a script long term as opposed to short term, like, okay, I'm going to read it overnight. Do I want to do it or not? Every filmmaker, as well as every actor on set, as well as producers, set decorators, DPs, everyone has a different process.
Yep.
And so what I've learned over all the years is never to lock myself in a process. What I learned early on, and it worked for me.
Sure.
But what's more important than my process is our process, a process of collaboration. So even if someone's process doesn't work for me, how do we work together so he can do or she can do what they need, or they can do what they need to do, and I can do what I need to do.
Right.
And so then that becomes a question. Actors, directors, whatever. Everyone needs collaboration on set.
Right.
And so in keeping that in mind and with that idea, it's like learning how to kind of, it's almost like dodgeball sometimes, but it also is you're learning to connect and you're also learning new ways to approach things. And you definitely, I think it makes me a better artist because I'm learning to do things I wouldn't do normally. I'm approaching things I wouldn't normally approach, and I'm forced to look at it in a different way. And because I can see it from a different angle, sometimes, not always, but almost always, it's something that benefits me.
Right.
That's
and if
awesome.
it doesn't benefit me, you just don't use it. You just don't do it.
You know, it's...
And I kind of, then for me as an actor, I kind of resort back to kind of some of the things I learned as a martial artist when I was young. And so one of the things was JKD or Jeet Kune Do, Bruce Lee's, invented martial arts, I should say. And it's not the same because there's no form, so it's never the same for anyone. But the philosophy behind it is you utilize what is good for you, what's strong for you, which may be different for Brad, which may be different from me.
Yeah.
For an individual to individual. So you utilize what your strengths are, learn what those are, and utilize those. Get rid of any style. Okay, you can get a foundation of learning a style or substance, how things work. That's important.
Yeah.
But then learn to throw all those things away because sometimes they don't work.
Sure.
And if they don't work, just like rules, learn the rules, use them, and then you don't need them anymore. Then you can learn how to do it without those rules. But those rules do exist for a reason. So it's learning to break out of the confines of those rules and, understanding them, but learning to be able to live, to eventually transcend beyond them.
Right,
Sure,
right.
yeah.
You still understand, and so you'll still use them from time to time, but, you don't have to follow it to the letter.
Yeah.
Like I used to follow those things to the letter, and it worked really well for me. But you want to try something different. You want to do something new, like any musician or filmmaker or any creative person.
And that's just your own need of growth.
That's part of personal growth. Yeah. I think it's, it's also part of growth of like the greater project.
Right.
I'm always trying to do the best I can to bring what I can to make it a better project. I'm never trying to make it mine or do it my way.
Because you always want to learn. You always want to grow.
You don't want to learn what you want to collaborate. You want everybody, because it takes the strength and will of everybody involved.
Right.
So you want everybody to be at their best.
Yeah.
And I've learned to adapt. I can be at my best and other people's be at their best.
Right.
It's crazy that, I need other people to suck so I can be good. No.
Yeah.
I need you to be good and I need you to open your wings. I need you to soar so I can soar. And then when we all soar together, we have something special that people remember, that they feel. It doesn't have to be an Oscar-winning film. Obviously, I'm not part of anything like that. And I very well may not be for my life, and I'll still live a full, happy life. Making movies and doing things.
But you're satisfied, though.
Yeah, not to jinx myself. I mean, I would be open to that. But
Not do it.
No, and aside, the politics aside, just to be able to work with the opportunity, again, to work with some of those people.
Right,
To expand the repertoire.
Yeah.
And so it's like by doing big movies, small movies, dark movies, light movies, horror movies, comedies, by just being open to trying to do everything and then doing your best, see what you can do to bring to the plate and how you can add your color to the palette.
Right.
And the thing is, it sounds like you want it to be infectious. It's something that can...
And certainly I have ideas of being a filmmaker and directing and writing, and I have stories. I have a series I've been working on clear over a decade that I'm about to unleash.
Nice.
Yeah, I mean, of course I've got to find a showrunner and some producers and whatnot, but,
it's something you put your heart into, man.
Yeah, but even then it's like, I'm not the control freak. I'm looking to collaborate.
Yeah.
Right.
Like each show will have a different filmmaker who can bring their own spin on things, whether it's in the past or the future or the present, and any language, any culture around the world. It's completely open to all those things, and then throw a twist in it.
Yeah.
Wow. Yep.
Well, it's like, all of these things were tools and things that you've picked up in your journey, but when you first started, was there it could be a film, a book, a song. Is that what made you want to launch into this? And was there a path you wanted to follow? Because I mean, when you're first starting out, do you have kind of like a tunnel vision? You're like, I want to do these types of movies, or were you just like, I want to just be a part of all of this.
I just want to be a part of all of it, really.
Yeah.
But I mean, certainly when I was a little kid, I dreamed of being like a Jedi or Superman. You dream of like those superhero kinds of things. But then, as you get older and my father used to take me to all kinds of movies. So I would go see Close Encounters when I was 7, then I would go watch Terms of Endearment when I was 9 and be like, Dad, can I cuss?
Yeah.
Dad, what the fuck is wrong with adults? Like, what the fuck are they doing? Why is everyone so fucked up? Oh my God, I never want to grow up. But you watch, I was
next
watching
week I'm taking you to see Ordinary People.
Serious shit when I was young. And that affected me. So as I got older, I can remember an actor in particular who inspired me to want to become an actor, that it was more than those things, was River Phoenix.
Sure.
And I found him to be a great inspiration into something I wanted to reach into that was like, okay, I didn't want to just be these characters in movies anymore. I wanted to be an actor, and I wanted to be real and touch people the way River Phoenix's performances were touching me, from like Running on Empty to Stand By Me.
Yeah.
So haunting.
To even like all of a sudden, and he's young Indiana Jones. Oh my God.
Right.
The Last Crusade.
Yeah.
So it was like, here's, and originally, had things not ended so, horribly tragically, he was going to be the young interviewer in An Interview with the Vampire, which Christian Slater was great.
Wow.
That was River Phoenix's
I had no
part.
idea.
Yeah. And River, Anyways, moving away, I don't want to, my point is to honor him and honor his memory and the whole, and he's been the number one inspiration for me as a young actor.
That's awesome.
And so I know that I wanted to move into like serious kind of, that's where I was, and then meeting Gregg Araki, it's like I wanted to be a part of, I felt like at the time kind of high and mighty, and then I got a little snobby about it, like I only make movies that mean something. Push the boundaries that are punk rock, that are on the outside.
But it's okay. I think it's like a layer. You got to go through these layers.
Well, no, it was
to find
good. I don't regret it, because it was definitely a layer, but it was part of this rebellion in me about, I wanted to live in a better world than I was living in. Like, we want to live in a better world than we're living in.
Right.
And you want to be a part of a voice that's speaking out against that. And that was important. And it was, not just as an actor, but just as a person, I felt like I was somewhere, I belonged to something that meant something for the first time in my life. That was meaningful.
Yeah.
Right.
And I'm like, okay, this is what acting can be. Right. This is what it is right now, and this is exactly what I want.
That's such a good click, spiritual click.
Yeah, and at the same time, it was also, I was introduced to all these kinds of different types of movies as a kid, from, The Marathon Man to Alien to, my dad was incredible parents, took me to all these movies
Sounded
as a
very
kid.
eclectic.
Very eclectic, and it was beautiful taste that just was all across the board, which, obviously influenced me. And it was, I remember, so there was another time I was watching a dinner theater play, The King and I. And we were watching King and I, and it wasn't Yul Brynner, but Yul Brynner's character. And I remember that movie, and I told my dad that was also, I'm like, I want to do what he's doing. I want to get up there, and I want to do theater. I want to do movies.
No kidding.
And he was like, you're too young. When you get out of high school and you figure out that's what you want to do. So it was kind of cool that, again, he went and got me that work permit.
Right.
Which, believe it or not, I ended up, one of the 3 movies that I did extra work for before I met Gregg Araki was a little movie called Cry Baby with John Waters, as he was doing pickup reshoots in L.A. at the old Little House on the Prairie set after they had finished filming in Baltimore, and he needed to do the pickup chicken fight race scene with Johnny Depp's character.
No kidding.
And it was that huge climax that, was like also my first experience on a huge set, So people are like, oh, can you see yourself in it? I'm like, yeah, with about 300 other extras.
Yeah.
But I'm in there.
Yeah, you were there.
Yeah. But that was very cool. So I can say that, when I met Craig, it's like, well, I did extra work for John Waters.
Yeah. I mean, that's
so again, like I think a staple in like cinema and changing cinema. Again, what it could be and challenging the boundaries of what it was at the time. Same like other filmmakers like John Cassavetes, another one.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
And so I find myself highly influenced, not just by music, but heavily by these films as well, and these filmmakers of that genre.
Right.
Another movie that makes a difference. I'm so long-winded because this is really good coffee, folks. It's funny, he never has a second cup at home.
He never has a second cup at home.
But one movie I know that changed everything for me. So I was like, now I'm like 17, I'm getting out on my own. I want to start watching independent movies in my own right, uninfluenced by someone else. And there was this place in Hermosa Beach at the time called the Bijou Theater. And they were showing this movie by Peter Greenaway called The Cook, the Thief, His Wife, and her lover.
Yep.
And that movie starts off, I'm just going to spoil it for you guys. A movie opens up with this guy getting the holy bejesus kicked out of him. Mm-hmm. And as they're finished doing it, it's Michael Gambone's gangster character, Dumbledore.
Yeah.
He's a gangster, mean young gangster, and he just sicks his men on them. Then when his dogs, his Dobermans are sitting there, they take a shit on the ground, and he takes takes the shit that they leave on the ground, they wipe it in the guy's mouth. Mm-hmm. This is the opening of the movie, and I'm watching this at 17 going, I didn't know you could show this or even do this in movies. At the time, I'm like, horrified out of my brain. And then Michael, I think it's Michael Gambone, one of the characters. It's been a little while since I've seen it now. That was 1989.
Same, yeah.
And he kind of steps over and goes, until wash it down. Pisses in his mouth. Oh, that's the opening of the movie, and I'm just... But then you have this film with the colors, because Peter Greenwood was a painter. Mm-hmm. You got Helen Mirren, you have a young Tim Roth, you have this incredible atmosphere of colors that changes from the kitchen to the dining room where a lot takes place, to the library, to everything between the gangster and his wife and her lover, who's the accountant, and how it kind of all, and the cook, and this androgynous angel that is... I mean, the whole movie is just kind of just wild and weird and out there, and culminating into this incredible ending that I will not spoil, and just say you all need to watch it because it will blow your freaking mind.
It definitely does.
Yeah, that was also one of the points where I was like, okay, that just that blew my world, that changed my life.
Yeah.
I can't wait to get into more movies like this. Like I didn't know that movies could be like this, and it did. It literally changed my world. It changed my reality. And I'd already done extra work at this point. So then it was, again, it was something that was pushing me more into this kind of realm I went to. Because I don't, had I tried to pursue being a famous actor or a big actor, it definitely wouldn't have went the same way it went for me.
Sure. But it cut a path. There's a very distinct path between the indie stuff that you were doing and then it just progressively getting bigger and bigger, and then you're with like Doug Liman.
Yes, that was the thing. So the things so working with Gregg, who ended up while I was a waiter at the time during Doom Generation, after Doom Generation, Dean Devlin and Roland Emmerich had just done Stargate and used to come in the restaurant, and they recognized me. And I don't know how they recognized me because my movies hadn't come out, and it turned out that they always go to Sundance. And they turned out that they were Gregg Araki fans.
Yeah.
Roland in particular was a Gregg Araki fan. Mm-hmm. And just kind of like... And Dean's just a fan of all movies, being an actor when he was a kid. And of course, a writer-producer at that point. And so he recognized me from Sundance as well and asked what I was doing. And I said, so are you still acting? I'm like, of course. Can I take your order?
Yeah.
Like the cliche waiter actor's working as a waiter to get by, which is what I was doing. Mm-hmm. And, I told him I was working on the Doom Generation with Gregg Araki and was going to play at Sundance in a couple months. And he's like, well, that's how I saw the other movies. I saw The Living End there. I saw Totally Fucked Up there. Maybe I'll see you there. So a couple months later, boom, I'm at Sundance and watching the movie, and movie ends. And for those who've watched the movie, oh man, it's still a crazy film. And I remember standing at the top right before the Q&A at the Egyptian on Main Street. And I look down and I get this tap. And it's Roland, and he looks at me and goes, oh, my God, Jimmy, that movie. Oh, my God. And I was like, well, mark him off the list. That's the one person I won't be working. Just top of the list. I'm sure it'll be long. Go down, do the Q&A. Still, I'm proud of that. I mean, I was proud of it then. I'm proud of it now.
Yeah.
And it turned out that Roland loved the movie.
Yeah.
And what he was just funny. Like, oh, my God, Jimmy, was just like, because it was so even crazier than he expected.
Yeah.
And he loved that.
Yeah.
So there's this guy who makes like these Hollywood conventional popcorn movies, but he loved the extremity of like what also, he's just a film fan like we were talking about now.
Yeah.
Like me, like you, like all of us. And for everyone hopefully listening to this podcast, the different things you can discover which never ends. Like I'm going, and I've been watching movies for years now. I'm on a Tarkovsky kick, you know what I mean? So there's so many different filmmakers and time periods you can go through and relive. Like, of course, the Korean revenge films of the early 2000s. And
it's literally limitless.
It's limitless. And there's so many incredible filmmakers from so many different countries.
Yeah.
Like out of Mexico City. Like there's just so many great filmmakers.
And that's why I love Criterion. The fact that
they celebrate some of the things because they continue to educate us and bring things that have been, left, like we were saying, that maybe didn't have such an impact or any impact then, but have a massive impact.
And I think
now.
education is a good word for it, because that's exactly what it is. It's being educated on films that you've
100%.
never would have seen.
And we are all searching and looking to continue our education wise. We continue to
Always.
consume our media the way we do. And in a lot of ways, even the multimedia that in the world that social media world we're talking about in now, we're obsessed with that. So we want that content. We want those stories. We want that inspiration. And there's certainly nothing wrong with that. Of course, you don't want to be gluttonous about it. You can only eat so much, right?
Right.
So in that sense, let's say that we can that you can only ingest it. Let's ingest enough where we can get what we need out of those things. Because I find myself guilty of the same things, where I used to spend like a month listening to 4 or 5 albums. All of a sudden, I've got like 30 or 40 albums a month, and I'm just not ingesting this stuff the way I used to.
Yeah.
Like when I really like something like The Creator, I watch it 3, 4, 5 times.
Oh, yeah.
I watch it over and over.
Right.
And that's just like that. I like that. And there's other things I know. I don't know if this is sacrilege to say here, but there's like other things like on television people haven't liked that I've really just like. I've been a big fan of Star Trek Discovery. I've been a fan of Halo.
Yeah.
So I've been a fan of some of these shows that have been coming out, and I don't care about the critics or like I dig it.
Shouldn't.
I dig that stuff. I find it inspirational to me.
Some of our favorite movies are ones that were critically reviled, and especially
as long as
being in the
I
horror
feel
genre.
something from the movie or what I'm watching, that's all that matters.
Just show me a good time.
I'm having fun. So some of these, I'm not going to say they're the deepest, but I am having a really good time with them.
Yeah.
There is one movie you've done that I haven't seen yet that I would love to, and it's called Desolate.
Oh God.
Yeah, I told them I was gonna...
That's a good question. So what's going on with that? I had a really good time making this movie Desolate with one of our hosts here.
I've seen
Mr. Brad Bruce.
Mr. Brad Bruce.
Yeah.
He's shown me clips. He was sending me pictures.
It was just one of those things where it was like, man, I mean, once these goes off, I'm going to tell you even more. But it was just, just that process of trying to find the right, like, VFX artists. We were just going through them, and because
if you can't find them, then you wait till you can do. If you can't do it right, wait till you get it right instead of releasing
that was because I mean we have a lock on the film, and it looks great. And of course, it's not colored because we haven't dropped VFX in. But it's like, and then COVID hit, and then everything was done, and it was like there was more years, And again,
VFX is tough. I'm going through that with another movie I did, throughout the pandemic that's in post now. But it's like, it's important. I know I hear from our director every once in a while. He's like, Jimmy, because I just got a co-producing credit on it. Not that I'm a big co-producer, but I've been helping however I can, whenever I can. He's like, Jimmy, all right, like taking this, he's giving me the effects back 4 times. The first time he did the first run through, it was like, okay, that's great. I'm going to tighten that up. And now it's just been lazy, like they did nothing. And it's like, I'm going to keep sending it back until they get it right.
Yeah.
And it's like, people are just, they're going to end up losing the job is what's going to happen, and it's like, I know some people are just trying to push schlock through, but there's certain people that are not,
Right.
And I do understand, look, I come from all kinds of genres of films, including no budget filmmaking.
Right. Sure.
When we made Totally Effed Up, we made it for 20 grand on a 16 millimeter camera with short ends on a grant from the J. Paul Getty Foundation and the NEA, National Endowment of the Arts, neither of which exist anymore. But, it was a different time in 91 as opposed to now. But what I'm saying is I understand doing what you need to do to make what you need to make and then cutting it all on a moviola, then adding the sound.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It took 3 years to make that. We shot it in 91 and it didn't come out until the end of 93. So it took 2 years to make that.
Sure.
Put that together the old fashioned way.
Right.
And then.
But the way you wanted.
Yeah. And then another movie I did recently, let's put it this way. I did it with Martin Landau and it just came out like a year or 2 ago.
Really?
So it took 10 years to come out.
No
Wow.
kidding.
Really?
So sometimes that just happens.
But I mean,
War
I
movies
get it.
kind
I
of
mean,
time
I'm
set in the
something.
future, so it's timeless in that. It won't feel.
Yeah.
And
It's
at
not
least
gonna
I don't
age out.
think it.
It's
Yeah,
gonna
I don't
still
think it.
fit.
Yeah, it doesn't. It doesn't date itself, and it's not a
Right.
dated film. Because it's made in a different time period.
That is one thing that I am happy about Desolate is that it's timeless as well.
That's good.
There's no time stamp there. There's nothing that's going to.
It's just when you're trying to do a mystery or something that has mystery to it, the more that you can do without being overt about it, like being a little bit not clear about the time period. I think that's important.
Sure.
So because that's not what it's about. It's not about the time period.
Not at
No,
all.
it's
Not at
Well,
all.
time periods can be part of the big, can be a big plot pointer character as well, but that's not in this story.
No,
it was
no,
something
not at all.
that's an afterthought. It's not even an afterthought.
Isolation. Don't expect you
That's what I got to see this
to
thing.
understand. After all, the hurting and pain. Sorry, that's
awesome.
sorry. That's this goddamn coffee.
I know
the coffee.
it's doing its job.
But so I'm excited. I'm excited about Desolate, and I'd love to hear more about it later. But yeah, everything in its own time. Where that award did eventually come out and is available now, folks, on Tubi and Blu-ray.
Anything else coming up?
Well, the movie I'm talking about now is the same thing that you're working on. He's working on the effects, and he's been working on the effects since last year, but he's kicking him in the ass and keep making him do it over till it's right. It's a movie called The First Circle, which probably will change, based off Dante's Inferno. So
Okay.
all these souls are trapped in the first circle of hell. They just don't know it yet.
Okay.
Nice.
Wow.
Yeah, and it's got this really cool cast with Michael Madsen and Natasha Henstridge, Chris Browning.
Oh, these are great. Yeah.
Yeah, just to name a few. Danielle C. Ryan's like our protagonist, big protagonist in the film. Jake Miller and Jay Tavare, as well as another comedian, Jay Davies. I don't know if you heard of that.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, Jay's got a funny naked scene. Haha, sorry, Jay. But it's wild, and the effects that we have on that, like the devil and the demons, and I'm really excited about this.
I can't wait to check it out.
And if it does, if it does well, we're definitely going to go into the second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh.
beautiful.
Of course.
Nice.
Yeah. Each circle. all
Yeah,
the
so
way.
it'll either be like a series of like films, or it could end up being this might be a pilot, and then just do the series.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we shot it as a feature. It's pretty wild. It's pretty crazy. I'm really
sounds
excited
fucking
about
Hell
it.
yeah.
Yeah.
Then, of course, Without War that I was just telling you about, which has just recently got released. That's out now.
That's the Landau one.
That's the one with Martin Landau and
Okay.
Michael Gladys. And
Very cool.
yeah, it's got another incredible Harold Perrineau is in it. Got this incredible cast of
Wow.
actors. People I've been very excited to work with over the years. Marguerite Moreau. So the names just keep rolling
Yeah,
out.
they
But
keep
I'm
going.
so
That's
lucky.
crazy.
Well, I'm
Yeah,
lucky
really
because
good.
I've just been so fortunate to work on these projects.
that's
The other movie
awesome.
I had that came out a couple years ago, but still doing the rounds that I'm very proud of, is called I Challenger. That recently won. Well, last year it won the best WTF of the year award. Best what the fuck is this movie anyways
Yep.
award for Film Threat. Thank you, Chris Gore, and thank you, Film Threat. We are honored. But I play this kind of 40-something-year-old gamer who's down and out selling weed to underage kids under 21 who can't get it from the shops.
Sure.
And turns out that his there's more to his backstory than you realize, which makes it kind of a tender film, which I don't want to give away the twist. But of
course not.
He decides through one of his gaming friends, played by Coy Stewart, who's just phenomenal, my partner, that he wants to do something to change his life, and he convinces him that he needs luck. So he decides that he's going to bury himself for 24 hours underground and then live stream it.
Oh, wow.
And that's how he's going to get his luck. And he actually sees these Russian burial videos, which are true. If you go on YouTube, they do exist.
No
People in
shit.
Russia were burying themselves for 24 hours, and then, not just like my character, but they were like that saying it. But I'm saying it because it happens in the videos.
Right.
Like they wake up and they claim to have luck, getting girlfriends, boyfriends, money, jobs, like all kinds of good luck happening to him.
Okay.
So my character,
I'll
obviously,
start digging.
he's smoking a little bit too much.
Yeah.
Sure.
It's just, so again, to say decides that he's going to do that, and it just doesn't turn out the way he plans.
Right.
But it's got these incredible cast of cameos. We got Tina Margarino.
Oh,
Napoleon Dynamite.
amazing. Yeah.
MC Light.
Oh my God.
MC Light.
Oh my
Margaret
God.
Cho, Jerry Bednob, the kids who play the young versions of me, and my younger brother, Zane Barrett and Jacob Astua, who you might recognize as a young kid from the Obi-Wan Kenobi TV series.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Matt Carmody, Dashelle Connery,
Wow.
Dag Fairch, Indy DeRoche. He's the one that was in The Mandalorian. I'm not The Mandalorian. He was in Obi-Wan. And then Dag Fairch, Dag?
Yeah.
Dag and his mother in it.
Stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's got a crucial, pivotal role in the film,
Nice.
him and his mother.
Very cool.
Yeah, so chock full of some really good cameos, and it was a really fun film. I'm super excited about
Sounds
it.
fucking awesome.
It does sound great, man.
Yeah, and I've just finished. I just got back from shooting a movie called Bikers versus Werewolves.
Nice.
Yeah, which
Oh, I'm down.
yeah, we can should be one of those more crazy little movies to just go and forget yourself and have a good time. But it's got a
Absolutely.
cool little cast: Robert Lasardo and Michael Pare, and
Oh wow.
yeah,
Okay.
some other
Very
people
cool.
I'm excited to. I was excited to meet and work with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Michael Pare can't get away from those werewolves, I say.
No.
Great guy. I was so cool to meet him.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
hope I get to work with him more at a larger extent.
Yeah.
Oh,
Cool.
that sounds
All
great,
right.
man. Sounds like you got a lot of plates spinning.
Yeah, I got
like
more
it.
movies coming. I mean, I'm like, don't kill me now. I know we got to get out of here, but I got a couple movies. I'm shooting a movie called Inner Child next month, a little horror movie.
Nice.
And the month after that, I'm shooting a crazy little indie called Cutaways. If everything works out. So,
Yeah.
yeah. Got some stuff on my plate. I've got some stuff I just finished last year. So yeah, let's see what it brings.
Yeah,
It's
hell
gonna-
yeah.
sounds
awesome.
fruitful,
I can't
so-
wait. Can't wait. Hopefully we get to work together again soon.
I would love that.
That'd
Thank
be
you for
wonderful.
thank you again for having me.
No,
gentlemen.
thanks for coming on. Hopefully you
We're
want to
honored.
come back.
Anytime.
Definitely. Okay, man.
Be like, we'll need to schedule 2 hours next time.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
know, right? Definitely. Okay,
figure
man.
it out.
We'll cut into this.
Yeah, yeah, we will. Awesome. Thanks for coming, man. Appreciate
Thanks
it.
for having
Appreciate you, buddy.
me. Appreciate you guys. Thank you.
Until next time.
See you guys.